Last week, I shared 5 principles I've learned from running my business in a way that is hopefully the most sustainable for the long term, and kind of how each of those principles can be used in the classroom. And all of these principles are under the umbrella of this concept of doing things now to serve future you, which is a principle I, borrowed from the lazy genius, Kendra Adachi, who was the first to talk about this idea. But I want to acknowledge in this episode that a lot of those tips that I shared last week, they're more like long-term. It's what you can do now to save you time next month or next quarter or even next school year. And so today I wanted to set aside space for an entire podcast episode to tell you about my favorite way to serve future you and immediately. And that's Friday planning to prevent Sunday scaries. I don't know about you, but do you ever struggle with those Sunday scaries? That kind of existential dread and overwhelm of the week that's to come? Maybe it's the inability to even enjoy your last day off because of the foreboding sense of all you have to do the next day at work. I don't know about you, but that is something I experienced consistently when I was in the classroom. And I have a process that I believe will help prevent that because it's helped prevent it for me as I've done It's Not Rocket Science from home. So, if you've experienced those Sunday scaries, this episode is for you. And if you know a friend who has, you need to forward it to them because I think this is going to really, really help you. So let's dive in. This is Secondary Science Simplified, a podcast for secondary science teachers who want to engage their students and simplify their lives. I'm Rebecca Joyner from It's Not Rocket Science. As a high school science teacher turned curriculum writer, I am passionate about helping other science teachers love their jobs, serve their students, and do it all in only 40 hours a week. Are you ready to rock the time you spend in your classroom and actually have a life outside of it? You are in the right place, teacher friend. Let's get to today's episode. Friday planning to prevent Sunday scaries. Now, when you saw that title or heard me say that at the top of this episode, you might have been like, blah. I don't have any energy on a Friday to do this. I don't want to do it on a Friday. The last thing I want to do on a Friday is think about work. I want to go home. Now, here is where I want to really encourage you why I think doing this on a Friday is so important, how it would feel if you did do this on a Friday, and then I'll also end this with what it actually looks like to do this kind of Friday planning and how we can do it to most maximize prevention of Sunday scaries. Here's why I think it's so important to do this on a Friday. I think at the end of the week, on a Friday, the weekend is here. You can taste it. I don't know about you, but I used to wake up on Friday mornings in the classroom with so much pep in my step, knowing that this was the last day before the weekend. I just needed to get through this day, and then it was the weekend and I was free. And maybe your school's like mine and we could wear jeans on Friday. It just was always a stellar day. I had this anticipation of something really exciting and being able to go home and have my weekend that put that pep in my step on Friday. So I actually think Friday is the perfect time to do this because you know that as soon as you're done, you're walking out of this classroom and you're completely unplugging for the whole weekend. Because y'all, think about it this way. How would it feel if on a Sunday you knew that when you walked in on Monday, the next day to work, you just needed to show up? There's no strategizing. There's no work to be done on your end at home on a Sunday. There's no trying to remember what you have to do. There's no making sure you get there an hour early to finish up all these things to be ready for the day. There's no impending emails that you left behind on Friday that now you really have to answer because it's been, 2 to 3 days. There's no multiple emails that you've acquired from one enraged parent wondering why you haven't emailed them all weekend long, that are building up. All of that is gone by our Friday planning to prevent Sunday scaries. Okay, how would that feel? I can tell you from firsthand experience, it feels amazing. And it allows you to really actually enjoy your Sunday entirely because you know that you don't need to worry about Monday because Monday has already been accounted for. I learned in therapy that anxiety begs action. And that's something I've thought about so much. One of the reasons why I would always feel anxious on Sundays is because I'm just thinking about what's to come. And I have this feeling of I need to take action to manage this. But the beauty of doing this Friday planning is you can tell your brain, listen, I already took the action. The action has been taken. So now I just get to enjoy and be. Okay, so what does this look like? How do we do this? I'm going to get really specific with you for exactly how I would do this. Okay, so first, try to protect your Friday planning time as much as possible, your Friday planning period. Here's why. We want to dedicate Friday planning period to prepping for the next week. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, that's whatever you need to do that week for those days. Friday is all about having space to prep for the upcoming week. So don't plan on spending your Friday planning period grading or lesson planning or having a parent conference or meeting with a coworker to talk in your PLC about something. Protect your Friday planning period. Also, personally, I always tutored every afternoon from 3 to 3:30. I had a sign on my door like, I am here every afternoon for these 30 minutes to tutor you if you need me. But I can tell you that rarely did a student actually stay on a Friday. Fridays were like so rare that someone came. And if they did, great, I would help them. But usually that ended up becoming an extra buffer period, like a 30 minutes that I had that I didn't normally have, after school. In addition, I always plan to stay till 4 or 4:30 on Fridays. I try to leave by 3:45 for every other day, but on Fridays, I'm like, it might be 4:30 because there's a list of things that I would not leave my classroom without doing. And as much of this list as I could get through, the more I knew that I was preemptively preventing those Sunday scaries. Okay, so first things first. But on Friday, I always go over my lesson plans for the entire next week, every prep. If I need to make any copies for the entire week, I'm going to be doing those right now. Now, if you're like me and you have gotten on the packet train, you've seen how helpful packets are, you're usually not having to make copies. So if you want to hear more about packets, check out episode 60. I'll link it in the show notes. But you're going to get everything physically ready that you need for the next week. Lesson plans are done. Whatever strategy you use, if you write them on a desk calendar, if you do something on your whiteboard, whatever, all of those are going to be decided. We're not making any more decisions for next week's lesson plans. Then you're going to plan out how you're going to spend your planning periods every day the next week. I have a whole episode about this, episode 62. It's about productive planning periods and 5 ways to instantly make your planning period more productive. But one of the ways that I do that is I'm very strategic about how I plan out my planning period. And I do this on Fridays. So on Friday, I sit down and I have like my little notepad that I use and I say, okay, Monday, this is what we're doing during this planning period. This project's due, so we're spending it grading this. Or Tuesday, there's going to be a test on Wednesday. So Tuesday, I'm going to review the answer key for that, make sure it's good to go. I'm checking in with this teacher. You're going to plan out every single planning period. Y'all, I know it sounds so silly, but I cannot tell you how much time you save if you go ahead and make these decisions in advance. And then on Monday, on Tuesday, when you sit down at the start of your planning period in the middle of the day, it's not like, oh, okay, I must check my phone for a few minutes and then I'll figure out what I need to do today. It's like, no, you have an attack list and you go ahead and you just start knocking things out because you've already decided once what you need to do. So you go ahead and you do those things. I cannot tell you how much time this spends if you go ahead and plan for all of that. And then you knock all those things out in any buffer time, then you can do some other things that have come up, kind of last minute. I also do not leave my classroom Friday without doing like a physical sweep of my classroom and, a little chair straighten up. Maybe I'm wiping down tables, whatever, but I'm doing like a little of that. This is like 5 minutes or less, like a physical cleanup. The next thing I'm doing on Fridays is I'm doing an email check, going through and making sure my inbox is 0. And then I'm turning on my weekend auto reply. Okay. So like in Gmail, this is like your vacation mode. Okay. You're turning this on Friday as soon as you finish your last check and you schedule it to go through the weekend. Y'all, this is an auto reply so that any email sent to you over the weekend, get a response immediately. I cannot tell you how much this will save your mental sanity to know that like you can truly unplug and not check your email because they are getting a response from you. You've already typed it up. In this auto reply, you have a thank you like for sending me your email. And then you have a statement that says, I do not check work email during the weekend. I will be back Monday and maybe it depends on when you prefer to check your email. Maybe you like to get in there early on a Monday and say Monday at 7:30, I'll be catching up on my inbox. You can expect a reply then. Or maybe you just say Monday during my planning period. Or maybe you leave it more open-ended. I will return all emails that I get over the weekend by the end of the school day, or, by the end of the day on Monday. But you tell them when they can hear back from you. And then I always have something that's like, in the meantime, here are some frequently asked questions, the answers to them. And I have like a bulleted list of like a Q&A. I do this for my business too when I'm out of town, because 90% of the time, something someone's asking me about is already in the Read First PDF, or maybe for you, it's already on your website, or maybe, and you can make these specific too. Like it doesn't have to be the same thing every weekend. You can tweak it. Be like, hey, frequently asked question, when's this project due? It's due Tuesday of next week. Here's the rubric for it of what's going to be graded. Here's the expectation. Like you're just going to try to be preemptive about all of these things. And then you're going to schedule that. The other thing I really recommend, and this is a tip from my relationships unit, which is a mini course in my virtual professional development that I have, which I'll link in the show notes if you want to check that out. But is I recommend at all times, you have this in your signature 24/7. Go into your email signature right now and put in it when you respond to emails. So like you've probably gotten an email from someone before from their iPhone and it has like their name. And then underneath it, it says like, excuse my brevity, this was sent from my iPhone or something. I want you to have something like that in your signature, okay? A lot of times we have like our name. It's like Rebecca Joyner, high school science teacher, student council advisor. It's like all of our credentials, which is like cool, but also who cares? You know what you should put in your signature? I should put Rebecca Joyner and put, I check my email Monday through Friday at 8:30 a.m. and at noon, because maybe you do a double check. You do it in the morning, then you do it at lunch. Please be patient as the rest of that time I'm working with students or I'm not at work. You can say some sort of statement like that. I have something a lot nicer written out, in that PD course. It's not like I'm just leaving you hanging there, but put that in your signature so at all times it is very clear. And then if a parent gets on you that you haven't responded, be like, per my email signature, I am teaching all day long. So the only times I'm able to check my inbox are this time and this time. So that's when you can be expected to potentially hear from me. I just think doing this and being proactive about it saves so much headache, and you'll stop those parents in the tracks that want to email you 18 times because you make it clear that this is when you're actually going to check your email. I think we have gotten to the point where we have such few boundaries. And I think the pandemic really did this because of virtual teaching. It wasn't necessarily like teachers' faults. It just happened with the nature of virtual teaching. And now we really need to rein it in again about how much we're on our computers and on our email, when it's not, an emergency and it's not part of your job description. And I'll link in my show notes a podcast episode that I have about this as well, because I'm so passionate about this. So you're going to do your last email check of the week. Then you're going to put your weekend away messenger like auto reply on. And then if you have time left from when you plan to leave, then you'll kind of do a grading backlog, check in on anything you're like, oh, I could knock this out real quick, get some things graded. And then here's my last tip for you. I want you to leave on your desk so that the first thing when you come in and walk into your desk on Monday, like I have like a desk calendar it's like a month at a time. So I have like that monthly visual, like a handwritten visual. Then I have my laptop on top of it closed. And then on top of that, I might put the one section of labs that I didn't have a chance to finish grading it, because that's going to be the first thing I'm going to attack when I come in on Monday. But you're going to leave on the top the first thing you need to attack when you walk in on Monday. That decision is made, and then you leave. The goal is you're setting up your room so that you don't need to think about one thing work-related all weekend long, because Monday, you're going to be ready to go for the week. It gives you so much peace on Sunday knowing that that's all done. And then Monday, when you get in, it's not like, oh, okay, what do I need to do for the week? It's like, no, I've already decided, and I've also already served future me by putting right here the number one priority. Sometimes for me, the thing would be on Monday, I'd leave a Post-it note for myself so that Monday when I walked in, it was like, hey, first things first, go prep this lab that you have to do in third period. And then I would just know, okay, that's what I'm going to knock out with my 20 minutes before the classes start today. Okay, so we're setting ourselves up for success. We're doing all this work on the front end when your reward is, I'm doing all of this, and as soon as I walk out, I'm free for the next 48 to 60 hours. And then you can come in Monday and just attack it. Now, my last tip for you is more of like a life tip. I also recommend meal planning and grocery ordering or grocery shopping on Fridays. Now, I know this seems crazy and everyone kind of has their pitch for a certain day, but for the longest time, I did this on Sundays. And then if you're anything like me, I would not want to do it on Sundays, and I would feel guilty all Sunday being like, I should do this, but I don't want to. So I'd push it to Monday, and then I'd have to leave work on Monday to go grocery shop. And it just was like, well, it was the worst. When I switched to doing this on a Friday, it changed my life. And I do mean that dramatically. It made my life so much easier. Okay, here's why I love it. Again, I have this reward on Fridays awaiting me of the weekend. And that gives me some pep in my step just to kind of get me through these last few tasks. I love it because I am going into the weekend when I'm at home the most with a full fridge. I love it because I'm going into the weekend when I have the most time to cook to actually do so. And then I also love it because when you grocery shop on Friday, then you start running out of things like Wednesday, Thursday, which is perfect because it's midweek. Then if you don't have anything left that you want to do for dinner, or, you bought these avocados for tacos and they went bad by the time you got to Wednesday, then you're treating yourself to takeout on a Wednesday or a Thursday. What a midweek treat to know like you're going to leave work on Wednesday and you're going to get takeout today, as opposed to when you grocery shop Sunday, Monday, then you start running out of food Friday, Saturday, and then you're getting takeout on Friday, Saturday, which again, Friday and Saturday in and of themselves are already a reward because it's Friday, Saturday. We don't need the extra reward of takeout. Let's spread the takeout reward to like a different day of the week where there's no rewards because Wednesday is like blah, hump day. I love that. And then the other thing I've loved doing too to really protect from Sunday scaries is I don't do social media on Sundays. I think it helps me to have like less envy. I'm not seeing what other people did with their weekend and maybe being like, oh, I didn't use mine as productively or I didn't have as much fun as I could have. And it also, I just think it's a good quieting of my mind before another work week to not be on my phone as much. And I just think it helps me just really suck out the energy and the peace and the joy and the rest from Sunday more than I could if I'm spending that time on my phone. Because you'll be amazed how much time you reclaim not being on your phone on a Sunday. And so that's what I do. I hope these tips help you. I mean, y'all, I even do this now and I'm not, in the classroom. I sit down every Friday at the start of nap time and I plan out what I'm going to be doing during all my different working blocks during the next week. When I have childcare, when the kids are resting and I can work then, I get it all planned out. I do all my final tasks and I close up shop. And that way, when I'm coming in on Monday, I know exactly I know what's been done and I know exactly what I need to do now to get started again. And you're just making all these decisions and accomplishing so much for future you. And I promise it's a game changer if you're willing to try it. So if you are, let me know. Leave a review today if you're going to avoid Sunday scaries next year by trying this. Send me a DM on Instagram. I'd love to hear from you. And I mentioned a couple of other podcast episodes. You can grab links to those in the show notes at itsnotrocketscienceclassroom.com/episode 139. All right, teacher friends, that wraps up today's episode. If you're looking for an easy way to start simplifying your life as a secondary science teacher, head to itsnotrocketscienceclassroom.com/challenge to grab your classroom reset challenge. And guess what? It's totally free. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you here next week. Until then, I'll be rooting for you, teacher friend.